Welcome to another episode of
Talk, Heal, Evolve. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Ebony.
Ebony, let's take them on a journey of healing and self-discovery.
Yes.
Grab your seat.
Wrap yourself in a cozy blanket.
Don't forget that journal.
And prepare to dive into conversations that nurture the soul.
I think it's time to create intentional space for growth and evolution.
Girl, you ready?
Let's get into it.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of Talk, Heal, Evolve. I'm Ebony.
I'm Stephanie.
And we are excited to be here with you all today, Stephanie.
Yes.
We have a really good topic today.
I think so.
So share with the people what we will be discussing today.
I'm always the sharer. So today we're going to talk about energy. Let's talk about feminine energy. All the things that go with that. You know, we hear about it all the time.
Yeah, we do.
What is it?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I Googled it.
Okay.
But before I get to the Google version of what feminine energy is, I want you to define to us, the people, our audience, what do you think the definition in society's eyes, right? Like the general concept of femininity in today's world.
Okay. So I know y'all probably, when we even first said it, thought about what it meant to you, and that's good.
Right.
So compare it to everything else that we're about to say. So for me, when I'm looking at socials and, you know, different podcasts, like, you know how they have the pop-outs?
Yeah.
I see people talking about feminine energy, meaning soft and submissive traits and nurturing and, you know, just more docile.
Okay.
What does Google say?
So Google says, which is, you know, what I will say, a rare thing is I may not always agree with what Google says, but today may be a little different.
Uh-oh.
So Google says feminine energy is often said to be connected to positive emotional qualities, such as empathy and patience.
Okay.
And beneficial traits like creativity, good communication skills, and high self-esteem.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
That's so funny that, okay, so the first part I'm on board with, but the second, I feel like that's applicable to anybody.
Well,
which is
femininity
usually what I have a issue with, like, when people say this is, you know, because I feel like the last part should be both parties, right?
Right. So it doesn't belong to any one person, gender.
Yeah.
It's just an energy.
Yeah.
That I feel like everybody should have these traits.
Same.
Not just, I don't feel like these traits are one-sided to anyone. I think that even if I got with a guy who says, oh, I'm masculine, if you can't show me traits of empathy and patience.
Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah. Right? Because I think a lot of these qualities that are on here makes for a good leader. So, yeah, just an energy.
Interesting.
So I have a question, right? For you and for the people out there watching. Is it possible to have or exude feminine energy without self-love?
Interesting. So I think that by that definition, maybe not.
Okay.
Because if we're talking about self-esteem,
right,
that's to me directly tied to self-love.
Absolutely.
And then to really be I guess you can be sort of creative, but to be your full creative self, you know, to really think of ideas that you have, not going and being inspired by what other people are doing and you're kind of taking that and putting your small spin on it, but to really be innovative and creative, I don't think you can, because you don't even know who you are. Like,
and to know who you are
is everything.
And I think so. The word wholeness, right? I think that's what, to know who you are. And to have self-love, to me, is what wholeness really is.
Right.
To me, just my opinion.
Yeah. But how does that, okay, so we talk about feminine energy now, right? And I feel like it's one of those trending topics. how has that changed from what it was to what we see now? Because, people out here be like, well, Granny did, and
not grandma.
Right. And they would have never, and that kind of deal.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So how has it changed with society?
So I will say this. We discussed this a little bit off camera, and you brought up a lot of good topics that really made me think about it. In terms of traditional and what is it now? It's like traditional versus
new age, I'll say.
Yeah, let's say that, right? In the past, grandmom did stay in a marriage, right?
Yes.
Through thick and thin.
Yes.
And it's really like that whole thing, like ride or die.
Yeah.
But why do I want to ride for somebody who's not really loving on me, loving on themselves, treating me as if like I'm the best thing that ever happened to them?
Right. Right.
Vice versa. Listen, guys, because I don't want y'all to come in the comments talking about something. Why I got to be all about you? It's all about us, right? I think when you have even that feminine energy when you have that feminine energy and you have that self-love, everything that you do for yourself, you want to do for other people.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I'm loving on me, if you're in my circle, if you're in my space, you don't even have to be a friend. I'm a love on a stranger.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like if I'm taking care of
myself.
Without even thinking about it.
Yeah,
because it's just not even who I am, but it's just a part of me. You know what I mean? Like it's just a very natural thing that is kind of automatic.
Yeah.
So
for sure, I think that society has grown, right? And so has roles for both parties. And so what we do now, Granny didn't have to do. You know what I'm saying? Granny wasn't really going to school. She was more household and making sure that was good. And so for the most part, whatever was done, she would take it with a grain of salt, figure this shit out, and just act accordingly. Whereas now we're in the workforce, we're in leadership positions, we are our education has skyrocketed, and so I think that, and we've learned how to love on ourselves, right?
That part,
we're not accepting anything.
I was getting ready to say, let's go a little deeper than that. You know what I'm saying? Was Granny really loving on herself?
Correct.
Because if loving on yourself, would that look like staying with somebody who's cheated multiple times?
Right.
Does it mean staying with somebody who talks to you as if
any
you
kind of way?
You know what I mean? Like that's not really loving on yourself to allow somebody else to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we really need to talk about like everything that we learn from our parents and our grandparents aren't always the things that we need to take with us in our adult lives.
Absolutely, because I think that they did the best that they could.
They did the best
they had.
Exactly.
Right? And so now when you see that, you do better, right? When you know better, you do better.
That part. When you know better, you do better.
Every generation is about evolution and evolving from what you've seen so that you can bring your family into a better position. So if you saw Granny accepting anything, why do you think that I would?
Why? You know what? That's a good... So, just a random question from what you were saying. When we are talking about evolving, how true do we stay to traditions? Because if we're about evolving, some of the things that we have normally learned growing up to be tradition or traditional, they should kind of go out the window with evolution, right? Or shift into something different.
So it's so weird because when you first started the question, I'm like, hell no! Because when I think tradition, I think of things that are passed down generation to generation, but traditional characteristics,
right,
and traditional behaviors,
right,
definitely need to change. Are you crazy?
That
like,
part.
and so it's so funny how now you'll see the older generation talk about, oh, these new age folks and da 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 da.
Right.
But for sure, like the roles are not as defined and clear cut as they were.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is a lot of people talk about like the new age or the young people, but what I'm really starting to see, especially the more I indulge in my intuitiveness and my
Mm-hmm.
self-care and self-love. A lot of the younger generation, I feel like, are starting to resort back to ancestor type of ways.
Mm.
What I mean is, like, you see a lot of the young generation doing the meditations
Mm-hmm.
and being in nature
Yeah.
and gardening. And I feel like the things that are very natural to us, the things that
Yes.
God created, because we don't need all of the outside stuff. I feel like the younger generation are really starting to get in there and be like, I don't need to go to the grocery store. I can grow my own food at
Yeah.
home, da 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 da. You know what I mean?
So that's exactly what I mean. So keeping tradition, but not traditional behaviors,
Right. We've
traditional
gotten
roles
away
from the actual
from the,
tradition
yeah.
because we associate that with the behaviors, and you have to
Listen.
separate, right? So just because the activity was, crucial doesn't mean that the behavior was crucial to that situation, right? Because you could be a healthy person, very high self-esteem and loving on yourself, but still doing the work that needs to be done for the house, growing your vegetables, or tending to your children, how you speak to them, and all kinds of things. Like, we don't have to carry on the old things just because they worked in one area. And I think that that's a part of evolution, knowing what to pick from and what to grow from.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Oh, okay.
I know.
Oh, I like those. Okay, so I had another question.
Ebony with the
Period.
questions.
Okay. How does a woman show feminine energy?
So I think that it is inherent to us, feminine energy, right? It's in you when you're born.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that your environment can take that away from you.
Well,
So,
listen here.
so just tapping back into what is natural for you.
Right.
And just, I guess, analyzing your environment and what has made you become who you are. And I think that we all sit with ourselves, right?
Right.
And even in, like, just your aha moment or in therapy or whatever, you realize the things that you've gone through have changed you, right? And so when you address those things, I think you are able to rest back into who you are, your natural self. And so I think it's natural for us to be creatives, right? Because Black people came up with so many different innovations, right? And they were just problems that we saw or things that we liked, and we wanted to capitalize on that.
Right.
Not necessarily monetarily, but, like, make that thing better.
Right.
And so just resting in and it goes back to other people too, right? The opposite sex. So if you do your part, I could feel comfortable doing my part.
Right.
And so I can be soft, and I can, take the time out to love on myself outside of whatever it is.
Right. I think we do ourselves a disservice when we start to say things like feminine energy. Ooh, y'all, don't cancel me for this one. Just hear me out, okay?
We just got here.
But I think it does a disservice when we start to say things like feminine energy is for the woman, masculine energy is for the man. I think that there needs to be a balance. Now, for sure, there are feminine traits that a woman will have, need to have, not need, should have.
Right.
You know what I mean? That is very nature versus nurture type of thing. You know what I mean? But then I also think that because of how we have evolved in society and in the world, women will also have masculine traits.
Yes.
And I think the really defining moment is masculinity versus toxic masculinity.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I wholeheartedly agree with you, and it goes back to how society has changed us, right?
Right.
And so now, because we are in general more educated, more self-sufficient, you do need to have a balance, because until you find that partner,
right,
you need to be able to love on yourself and protect yourself from whatever situations or what have you. And so I think having a balance is super important. And then as a man, you do need to be able to check in with your emotion or whatever, be self-sufficient and who gonna cook for you? You can't buy out all the time. Like, if you say that that's a woman's role, right? So just being able to care for yourself, but for sure there has to be a little bit of something for everybody, because of how we've evolved.
Something that we didn't actually talk about, but I want to ask, what is femininity not?
That's a good one.
It's not cooking and cleaning.
Right. That's a role.
It's a role.
Right.
Right.
And a task. Like, who does those things is whoever gets to those things. Right.
Or whoever likes to do them.
Or, right.
You know what I mean? Like, however, it is important because if you are a man or a woman who does not like to clean, I don't care how many times you go out and get a maid, you still need to have some type of awareness of cleanliness. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that goes back to self-care, right? Because it's about keeping your space free of things, right? Because clutter brings
space is free, your mind
spirits
is free.
And all kinds of stuff, you know? And so you want to keep your space clean and organized so that, like you say, your body and your mind can, you know, relax in that space. You need to be self-sufficient in terms of getting your nutrients and kind of knowing what you should and should not be eating.
Correct.
Right? And so all those things that we assign to people is just dumb to me. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know how to do your laundry, not necessarily you have to do it, but even when you take it to be done, if you don't know what needs to be done, how can you ask for that thing?
Listen. You know? That's a word. So just in general.
Period.
If you don't know what needs to be done, how can you ask for it?
That's your drink getting made at the bar.
Listen.
That's what you need to put in your body.
Listen.
That's what you need to put on your body. Everything. So if you don't know these things and take the time to learn it, you don't even know what to ask for. So for you to ask me to cook for you, sir, can you cook? So, you know what I mean? Can we cook? You know, can you build this thing? Can I build that thing for myself? So
I'll try.
Right. That was a little scary, but
because Lord knows I don't know about no hammer, but I'll be trying.
But yeah, so again, being self-sufficient until you're able to come together with a companion or with a roommate or whatever your situation.
A roommate is crazy.
Listen, I let people live their lives. Y'all do what y'all do. Not over here. We ain't doing that 50-50 shit.
She said a roommate. A roommate
whatever
is
you decide
crazy.
To do. For your companionship. Until you get there, you should know yourself.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. I hope we ain't roommates out here. If we're roommates, what is that?
2024. I mean, do y'all.
No, baby. Love on yourself. Because if he's making you be a roommate, that means somewhere along the way you done got lost with who you are and knowing what you bring to a. I was about to curse now. Not what you bring to a table, but what you bring to the world.
Yeah.
Knowing who you are and your purpose and what you offer and how you can be in service. Absolutely. How dare you have someone come up to you and ask you for a roommate situation?
Nah, we're not doing
what
that.
What are we doing?
The table is too small. And that
what are we doing?
Nah, it's the world. That part.
Can't do it.
Do you know who I am?
Listen.
Okay, back on.
Because to only have me in your life is to elevate.
I mean, listen, you should feel honored that I'm here. You should feel,
and guys, in no way are we like boasting.
No,
but
no.
It's just
that's how you should feel about yourself,
right?
Yes,
it's not a boast. It's just knowing who you are, being comfortable in your skin, understanding your purpose and. You know what you're meant to do.
Having standards,
yes.
Sticking to your morals, right?
Sticking to your morals, your values, and your boundaries.
We're not accepting anything out here.
We're not.
No.
That's
the energy I'm on. Okay.
Roommate.
I don't know what kind of energy that is, but that's the energy I'm on. So, yeah, whatever applies to your situations.
Girl, all right. So we're going to let that one land for y'all.
Take time with that one.
Love it. Okay. So I read somewhere.
Yeah.
Online, and I wanted to share because we talked about what femininity is, right? Yeah. And I wanted to talk about masculine energy a little bit. So by way of Google, the definition, which, you know, they didn't give as much on the topic as they did femininity, which is very kind of interesting to me.
I'm not surprised.
But it said masculine energy is characterized by doing and achieving and is molded by logic and reason. Period. Right? then it just goes into femininity, like, because that was it, right?
You know, I feel for men sometimes, right? Because I feel like y'all don't get enough love. And I think that that's why they move through the world the way that a lot of them do.
Right.
And you'll see it. They talk about it on Mother's Day versus Father's Day, what restaurants look like, what gifts look like.
Right.
And even something like this, you know what I mean? You're looking for guidance on something, and it's just like, that's what that is. But women,
right,
and
right,
you know,
right.
and I think it goes back to trying to make a woman, like form to a picture or an image in the head. Whereas men, it's like, oh, you're a man, do your thing. You know what I mean? And yeah, and it doesn't really give guidance. And I think that we need to get back to the basics and kind of, you know, give them some foundation.
Okay.
Of what it is. And I think that a lot of times we don't see that definition for a man, right?
Right.
In terms of masculine energy, it's more of a toxic trait that we'll see, as opposed to just as some general thing like that.
Right.
A man's a protector, you know, hear me roar, and he's, you know, all those kind of things. And I just think it's bullshit.
Yeah, I think it's very egotistical.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that a lot of people can move with ego instead of intention and spirit, I guess, just being led by, I don't even want to say spirit, but like love.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But there was more. So it says the feminine is more intuitive, oriented towards receiving and allowing, and characterized by being. When these two energies are balanced, we experience a greater sense of harmony and fulfillment. Now, despite the little that they had about the masculine energy, I do love this.
Yeah.
Especially because, even just jumping back to femininity for a second, the receiving part, I feel like, is a big thing for people. For women, let's just talk about women in general.
Yeah.
Like, or just people in general. I think receiving compliments, receiving love, receiving praise, it can be hard for a lot of people to even accept and allow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you ever heard somebody say, just take the compliment?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just bask in the compliment. Yeah. You don't need to.
Or if you give them one, they want to reciprocate. No, girl, we talking about you. Let's celebrate you
Let's
today.
Celebrate you. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. And be happy when you're around people who celebrate and want to celebrate you.
Absolutely.
It says a lot about their character when you're around people who are not so self-absorbed and everything has to be about them. You know what I mean? I think it's refreshing when you get around people who are like just hyping you up. It's your moment, and it's okay for it to be your moment in that moment. And that doesn't mean that every time I get around you, it's going to be your moment.
Right.
But I have the space to step outside of myself and celebrate my friends and non-friends, family, and strangers, or whatever the case is. Yeah. Like, girl, congratulations.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think that's important. So what is your take on it?
So, again, I think that we need to do the same thing and dispel a lot of the myths that society has about masculine energy, so that we can get back to the basics and get back to that. So what are some other things? I know I talked about, you know, being overly protective. What are some masculine traits or masculine energies that you've heard?
That I've heard? Yeah. Now, are we talking about toxic masculine? Sure. We're talking about regular.
Just in general. Not that you want, but what do you think people say as, you know, oh, I don't want to talk to her because she's so masculine, or, you know, I'm so masculine, you know?
Right. So I think it's associated with angry black woman.
Yeah.
Assertiveness, which some people is just like direct.
Right.
Don't be mad because I'm very direct about what it is I want. Yeah, we don't have to and what I require. Everything. Listen, this is just how it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it as nice as possible, but it is what it is.
Right. Argumentative,
which is a thing though. We can't ride past it as if it, you know, there are people who are and who do sit in those traits, and of course, those are more so. And this is no gender.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's what they say masculine is, but I don't think anybody should have any of those traits. Like, you should not be confrontational all the time. Like, sir, you know, that's not a masculine or a feminine trait.
Right.
It's a bullshit trait. And then being argumentative, like for what? All
Right.
the time? Like
all the time.
You know.
So I think it's really interesting how in today's society people love being toxic.
Oh, of course they do.
They brag about the fact that they're toxic.
Yeah.
Like it's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm the toxic one in the relationship. But why? If you know, do something about it.
I've been there, right? But never in a bragging way.
Yeah.
Like in a, girl, get it together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like get it together because it doesn't look good on you.
Mm.
And it doesn't, being toxic will have you alone and depressed and by yourself. And that doesn't mean in a relationship. It just means with people in general. Period. Because I don't want to be around somebody that has no control over their emotions.
Yeah.
That don't know how to communicate properly and tell someone what they're feeling in the moment. They what do I want to say? They prefer to hold it in and to like let it out in a moment's burst. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? To let it pile up. And it's like, but what are we doing? Because you could have just said that.
It's what we're being fed, right? All of the outlets are pushing this drama because that's what people are interested in, right? So instead of you addressing, for example, a thing, you want to have that quick comeback. You want to say something smart to be, that girl or that guy. And so I think that if we start to consume different things, it would change how we act.
Because the content that you consume on a daily basis
is who you become.
It's who you become.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And people love that. Every show. It's draining.
It is draining.
It's draining. So.
Yeah. That's actually a good one. I didn't think about that, but it's something that I say all the time. Like your content, the content that you consume, whether it's music, movies, TV, it all plays a role, whether you know what I'm saying? Like in your subconscious.
Yeah, that's another one talking about music, hypersexualized, you know? I don't understand like how we want a person to identify with these traits as that being like who your energy or what your energy is, as opposed to saying, yeah, I don't see that, because I don't think anybody should have to subscribe to any of those things, any of those negative things. Now, what I do think masculine energy is, just in terms of my definition, is again being able to protect, but with more of a leadership aspect, right? And so your protection is you trying to identify, like if you're at work, you're a SWOT, right? What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in this house or in this relationship, or even for myself? Like I'm looking out for things so that we don't have to encounter the thing. We can divert this direction and, just growing my family and protecting them in that way. Providing for my family. You know what I mean? So that my partner can fall into their softness, or they can nurture. And then when I need that, I'm able to do so too, because I provided a foundation that I can rest too. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I think that it's important to say what it is or what it should be.
Right. And balance, man. A balance is important as well.
So, is there a middle ground, do you think, between that feminine energy and that masculine energy?
I personally don't think that there's a balance, right?
Not the balance, but is there in between?
No. And I'm going to tell you why. The word try is how I look at it. It's like people say, oh, I'm trying to do it. There's no such thing, right? Try to drop the pen. Either you're going to drop it or you're not going to drop it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think there is a learning curve for you to start in one area and work your way up to it, right? But then that's the doing. Like you're making the changes, you're evolving to become this energy that you want to exude. But to say, is there a middle ground, an in-between ground where I can just sit in the middle? I don't really think so. What about you?
I don't know. I think that, I don't know. I ask because, we say a lot of people don't like labels, right? And so we're now in this time where, well, no, I'm not feminine, I'm not masculine, I just am. You know what I mean? And so that's why I was trying to see if you thought that there was a certain energy associated with that.
Well, you know what's interesting? I think I can get when somebody says like I'm not feminine, I'm not masculine, I just am, because of the definitions that society puts
Absolutely
onto everything, you know, and then it becomes something that completely is like strays away completely from where it started and what it originated to be.
Yeah.
So I think I can get the space of somebody being there, but I just don't think that this one to me is pretty black and white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no really in between.
Yeah, I think that there is, if you do have a balance, there's really no need for a middle ground. And that, again, everybody should have a little bit of both.
Right.
Right? Because even if we're talking about that protective and provider kind of characteristics, while you're a woman or not a woman, but while you're single, who's providing for you? Who's protecting you? And so these are some of the characteristics that you want to have.
Correct.
So that you can, just move through life in a good way.
Right. But I also think that when you are single, not in a relationship or a marriage or anything, when you have just the feminine qualities, feminine traits, you don't have to do everything yourself, because people, it's the same as being authentic. When you are authentic, there's a lot of things that you just don't have to do because you're just being, and people will come to you. Like people will
totally disagree.
Really?
Absolutely.
All right, well, let me finish my thought first.
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like, so when you're single and it's like I don't have to learn everything. If I don't want to have to build a cabinet, I get that because I have this energy around me, I can go into Home Depot and ask a question and potentially somebody could be there to help me out. Oh, like, okay, I know how to do this. I can give you some tips or blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And I think that we'll have people in our lives that will help us out. I don't need to know how to do everything from A to Z to live. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right, Steph. Go ahead, girl.
I'm just saying.
Go ahead.
I don't feel the same way. I feel like you should be self-sufficient until you come to a space where you have a partner or companion.
Okay.
Because it goes back to knowing what you want in life, right? And understanding those things. So if I don't know how to build a cabinet and I go to Home Depot, the tips are fine, but I want to know for myself how to do it and to even try that thing, right? So that if I do have a partner, I can be of some assistance. You know what I'm saying? So even though they're doing the thing, I could still act as some support or offer some support. You know what I mean?
I'm not trying to do that. So Stephanie has built a Bob.
Okay, so
and Bob is not a man. Okay, Bob is not a man. Bob is just, Stephanie's a builder.
I am, but okay, but you brought a cabinet, so that's why I went there. So let's say cooking, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Completely different.
It's not different.
It's different.
It's like different.
It's like saying, I need to learn how to do electrical around my. I'm not messing with the lights.
So let's do something. I said cooking because it's relatable. Because I'm not messing. Well, I will change a fan, but like I'm not doing no major electrical things.
Let me tell you something, ladies. Don't. If you are capable of building things, cool. If you are not,
well, no, I'm not. We're not even talking about building. I'm talking about being self-sufficient, right? So if we go back to the specific traits that we talked about, you should be able to protect yourself and identify areas where you might be putting yourself, or you might just be around danger, right?
Right. But see, here's the thing, and I don't want to cut you off, but I do want to say
But you are. Go ahead.
All right, but I love you. You can protect yourself, but until you get married, you still have that protection of your family. You still have the protection of the men in your family.
See, I don't want to put it there because a lot of people don't. Like, a lot of people are completely self-sufficient. And I think that it's important that we note that even if you do have your family, right, they're going to be a phone call away. Until they get there, you need to be able to identify certain things, right?
Right.
You need to be able to look out for yourself. You need to be able to provide for yourself. And so I think that when we talk about these traits that men or masculine and feminine energies, I think that you should have and want to experience and want to learn a lot of those those things, so that when you do get in a situation, you can realize people's strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
And so if you don't know how to be a leader, right? When you get in a situation, you don't know if you're being led right. You don't know until the shit goes wrong. But if I know a little something about that, I can help you. I can support you in that, or say, you know what, I don't know if we should really do that. Let's try this way, and then they grow, and in that.
That's interesting.
Whatever.
That's interesting. I feel, it's interesting, and I think when it comes to that, like just the analogy of you don't know how to be a leader, right? To be a leader is to be a follower.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, to be a leader, you have to be around people who have led you.
Right.
Those are your examples. You know what I'm saying? The people that are in your life, people that you look up to, but hopefully more so the people that you can actually connect to personally versus looking up at someone. But I feel like that's how the qualities are built, because you see the good leadership qualities in other people who have led you, who you have followed, who have mentored you. And that's how you start to create those characteristics for yourself and those traits for yourself.
Right.
I think that being self-sufficient is really good. However, I think that there doesn't have to be, but I feel like there should be a balance of it, because then we become too self-sufficient. Like, I don't need a person for this because I can do it all by myself.
That's something complete. That's ego.
But people would look at it as self-sufficient, though. And in today's society, that's how people are showing up. Like, I don't need a man. I can build a cabinet on my own, just using our analogy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's why, for me, I say it's important to make sure that you have people in your life who can show up for you, so that you don't become the person that I can do bad all by myself type of person.
Yeah.
The person that just, you do everything. You're too proud to ask for help.
Yeah.
So you decide to do everything on your own, because I think too much of it can be problematic for a partnership.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it goes back to when we talked about identifying what those things mean for us, right? And so I don't think you can ever be too self-sufficient.
Oh.
Right? But when you get into a relationship, seeing when that person is sufficient in, you can rest in that area. So now it's not as tiring of a journey, right? And I think that that's what the beauty of relationships are. You come, you fit to where, each other's strengths and weaknesses, and then you can rest some, and they can rest some. Okay. And things that you don't know, that you both are, whatever in or deficient in, you work to those things, and whoever picks that shit up, I'm glad I don't have to, because I can rest in that. So I don't think you can ever be too self-sufficient, because it just opens doors. Now, if you're too self-sufficient and prideful, or too self-sufficient and egotistical, or very strong, or too strong-minded, I think you'll be too strong-minded. You'll come into a situation, and everything that person does, I don't like how you're doing that. Yeah. I could do that too, so let me just do it. Right. That is a problem.
So, guys, because so many times we agree on a lot. Yeah. And I think this is one of those things that I would love to hear from our audience and the people that are watching. Do you believe that there is a such thing as too self-sufficient? Because I do. And I think that it can become very problematic, because even in the sense of being too self-sufficient and not depending on no one, when you get into a partnership, it's hard for you to even let go. It's hard for you to, because you're like, I've got it. And then how long have you been self-sufficient? A month, a year, 10 years? How long has it been since you've been in it? So I do think that it is healthy to have people in your life that you can rely on, and you don't always have to depend on yourself. Now, I'm not saying not to be able to depend on yourself, because ain't nobody gonna have you like you gonna have you. You know what I'm saying? But when you're doing it for a long period of time, I think it is something that can be very hard for women to let go of in a partnership. And I think that that's where we start to see the problems, because if you got everything and you can do everything, then it becomes a struggle in the relationship, because when you've been operating by yourself for so long, you don't even know. And if you don't have or allow other people in your life to be of benefit or help to you, when you do your best to become one, because that's what a partnership is.
Absolutely.
It's two people coming together to be one.
Yeah.
It will be so hard and problematic for you as the individual to let go and have faith in your partner that they can do it, or create space for your partner, even if you know it.
Yeah.
Just to create the space to allow them to do it. You know what I mean?
Try.
To even try. So I do think that, yeah, there is a such thing as too self-sufficient, especially over a long period of time of being single. You know what I mean?
I disagree.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I just do, because we agree on too much shit. No, but again, I'm going to
She want to be problematic so bad, guys.
I know. It's so fun. No, but again, I think coupled with something, it's bad. But I think by itself, it's not bad. Coupled with pride, coupled with ego, coupled with not identifying or knowing that a partnership means becoming one, so that you can rest.
Right.
You should be able to rest in your partner.
Right.
And so if you don't want to rest, that's where a problem comes in.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's interesting.
And I love to hear both sides of it.
Yes,
right? Because
same.
there really is no right or wrong. It's different experiences that we've had, different ways that we view the world, and maybe experiences of other people that we've got to see or hear about. And then formulating our own thoughts around it. You know what I mean? So I love, because I'm not in disagreement with what you're saying. It's just that I feel a different way. But I also agree with certain things that you're saying, that it is coupled with ego, and it is coupled with pride and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I do think that, especially for women in our culture, the American culture, I will say, because I feel like it shows up more here in our culture than it does in other cultures. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like other cultures, your parents don't even allow you to be
on your own,
and on your own at an early age, and having to figure
you get married most of the time.
Until you get married is when, you know what I mean, you get out the house and you start, you know what I'm saying? So I think that for our culture, it looks very differently, and I would love to start seeing some of those values and traditions from other cultures that are really positive in our culture.
I think we're slowly getting there. The more that, because America's a melting pot, right? So the more that we have, people immigrate,
right,
and just join in with us, we start to learn and see and pick things that we like, right? But I think it goes way back to the start of this nation, where they were separating us as families, so we had to be self-sufficient.
Very much so.
And you couldn't afford to have your kids in the house when you got of age and you could take care of yourself. I'm going to need you to go get a job,
Right.
So it goes back to how this country was founded and built to, some of those same things are ingrained in us now. And it sucks, because you can see that clearly, right?
Right.
But in other areas, when we talk about, I won't even get into it because it's a whole topic in of itself, but like when we get into the repercussions of slavery and,
right,
redlining and all those sorts of things, like you can't understand why there's a disadvantage here, but you can see clearly that things that happen from way back when have effects right now.
Absolutely.
And so I think the more that we get to experience other cultures and, see that we can rest and what femininity looks like there, and, compare that, I think it'll change some more.
Yeah. And then I'm always going to go back to love.
Yeah.
Because even if we don't compare ourselves to other cultures and we don't look outside of ourselves, if we just start to lead with love and love on ourselves, you know what I'm saying? I just think that we would start to show up.
Absolutely.
And then the way to change anything is to start with yourself. You know what I mean? Be what it is you want to see.
Yeah.
And then you'll start to get other people around you that are being exactly who you are becoming or who you are. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And I think
Absolutely.
that's how the change is made.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, okay, we've talked about a lot. We've
Yeah.
talked about femininity, what it looks like in society, our thoughts on it. We've talked about masculinity a little bit, what it looked like in society, and our thoughts on it. So, let's just say we're talking to the people out there who want to know more about, okay, well, how do I get this? What are some tools? You know, because we're
Yeah.
good for giving y'all some of the tools out of our toolboxes. And our toolbox is really just the things that we've utilized over the years in our own lives, and we're just sharing it. So, not even coming to you as experts or
Definitely
therapists or
not.
anything like that, but just giving you all some things that we've done to elevate and to be, you know, where we are today.
Yeah.
So, what are, you know, some of the things, some of the tools that you think people can take away? Let's start with femininity.
Right.
When it comes to that, what's a tool?
I think a big tool for this would be to reflection.
Reflection
Right?
is good.
So, what do you see as femininity?
Yeah.
And then really go down and see, like, is that something that I would want anyone to have, or is that a trait that, you know, I think is a good thing? And then do the same thing for masculinity, right? And then evaluate that and see how you can bridge them together. And then what you want in a partner and what you want for yourself, what do you think you can give? And I think that that will kind of help in terms of having your own definition as opposed to being influenced by society.
Yeah.
And help you move in the right direction in terms of what you are bringing to a relationship.
Yeah. Reflection is good. Reflection is good. And I think it's definitely necessary. It's definitely needed. I think that when you are on this path or this journey to self-evolution and self-care, I think that the focus only needs to be on yourself.
Well, I think it needs to be what you want to see in another person, right? Because how do you know what you want them to bring if you don't know what?
Well, I think it's first about evolving yourself, right? Because when you start to focus on anything outside of yourself, you're bound to get a bunch of stuff brought to you or aligned to you that may not be in the space of where you're becoming or where you want to be, but where you are. You know what I mean? So I think that when we do self-reflection, even if you're married or single or whatever, just giving, you know, curving out time for self. And also realizing that it's a journey.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? This is not, oh, over the weekend, I'm going to do this and I'm evolved. It doesn't work that way. So for me, a tool will be journaling. And I think journaling is important because it really is self-reflection in a way. I mean, it's taking time, and it doesn't have to be. I know people can be afraid of it or just think that they don't have anything to write down. But even if it's just at minimum 5 minutes of your day, getting up in the morning, whether it's writing down in a journal, reading the Bible, whatever it is you need to do to get out of your head and just reflect in peace and quiet. Nothing else there. Start with 5 minutes, right? I feel like that would be a tool. And then to do it every day. I mean, listen, we've been bullshitting around all our lives. You know what I'm saying? We've been doing it wrong, getting it together or trying to get it together and stuff. So to think that it's going to happen overnight is blasphemy. Right. You know what I mean? So I would say give yourself like 6 months, right? Let's just say I've never journaled before, but I really want to evolve, and let's just give it a try because I've never did it before. And yes, I may be intimidated, but let's just see because we never know how it might go, and just start every day for 6 months. Journal, reflect. How's your day going? How has it been? What little wins did you have today? What do you see as a failure? Write all those things down and then come back in 6 months or by the end of the year and see where you were when you first started from day one to where you are at 6 months or 1 year in. And I feel like when you do that, just one tool, because a reflection is really like meditation. It's being quiet, journaling. Those really are two tools that you can do. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like they're very beneficial for people in general. It's another form of therapy.
Yeah.
For self.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think another tool would be to, when you see these conversations come up, to challenge them, right? Because you'll see things that you've identified now that you've reflected and you've written down what you think that thing is, what you think is not, and then what you think the opposing side is. I think it's important to engage in discussion, right? Because hearing us talking about it is one thing. It gives you perspective, right? Writing it down and reflecting on it is another reflection. Not, I don't want to say the word twice, but like
another tool,
thing, right, to review. But then also engaging in discussion is important, right? Because that's another opinion that you can actually debate with. And then you'll find that your thoughts elevate. They may change, they may stay the same because that person may reinforce or they may encourage you to think of something else. So I think that when you see the topic, engage in discussion and then see how that has changed, or if it's changed anything that you've done prior.
I think that it is important to talk about it with the people that are in your circle, talk about it with the people that are in your lives, and engage with them to see like where they're at with it and where you are. Can be another opportunity, because talking is actually good. Communication is really good.
It is
and
good.
Then being vulnerable in your communication and very authentic in your communication, I feel like also is another form of therapy. You know what I mean? Not that you are looking for advice or looking for someone to validate what you are saying, but just sharing your thoughts and your opinions with others, just to kind of go back and forth and see how it goes. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I feel like when you share your thoughts and opinions, you're saying what you're thinking out loud, and you realize that shit don't even make no sense.
And sometimes like, they be like, hold on,
I don't know if I thought that through. And so like you say, it's a great form of therapy for yourself, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So guys, I'm excited to see what you all have to say, because I know the comments are going to be full. I feel like they're going to be full, and we'll look at some of them.
Not all of them, but
so thank you guys for being here with us today. I hope you have enjoyed the conversation and the topics that we've talked about today. As always, please make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us here on YouTube and also our social media platforms.
For sure. Everything is Talk, Heal, Evolve.
Everything.
And we look forward to the discourse with you.
All right.
See you next time.
Bye, guys.